league that never sleeps. The Super Bowl was, 15 days ago, and we're already talking about Myles Garrett. So first and foremost, what are the odds that Myles Garrett actually gets moved? Because I know the Cleveland brass has been pretty stern about saying he's not going anywhere.
And that's all we can go by right now, unless they change their mind. Now, we've heard other organizations say similar things only to trade somebody, but it's a difficult trade to pull off in the sense that if they were to trade him right now, they'd have to accelerate, I think, $36 million against their cap. They're already in a tough cap situation. So not only do they not want to trade the player, but trading the player puts them in an even more precarious salary cap position. So it becomes increasingly difficult to do. Again, not to say it can't be done. It certainly can. But it's just challenging to get that sort of thing done in my mind.
I know that one of the things that we've talked about is it would take the entire draft capital of the Eagles' 2025 draft. If you took every one of their picks collectively by its value, and I'm using the Sumer Sports chart for it, it doesn't equal any one of the top 15 picks in the draft. They don't even have a lot of leverage as far as draft picks go, as far as value.
Well, so what you're saying to me, John, is you're asking me if the Eagles could wind up trading for Myles Garrett. And what
I don't believe they could, but I mean, that is what I'm asking you, though. Sure.
What's amazing to me is I was on the field after the game, the Super Bowl. I'm on the field, and there were Eagles fans in a cordoned-off area. I must have been asked 5 times on the field, are the Eagles trading for Myles Garrett? And I said, excuse me, you just won the Super Bowl. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Forget about it.
We want more, Schefty.
That's what I keep saying.
For Myles Garrett, like, you're not trading for Myles Garrett right now. It's not happening. It just seemed a little odd to me that was a question. And look, I just don't see it. I don't see it. Now, there have been things that have happened in this league that I haven't seen coming. So I always say anything's always possible, but I don't see that trade happening. And for all the Eagles fans that have asked, we trade for Myles Garrett, I guess you could, but I would be floored.
Now, why don't you see it happening? Do you believe the Eagles will try to stick with what they've been doing, which has been building through the draft, or do you think it's, to John's point, they just don't have enough to acquire a talent like Myles Garrett?
It's all of those factors. I mean, they're trying to figure out exactly, who they're going to pay, when they're going to pay. You need all the money you can, especially after a Super Bowl win. You want to go keep Zach Bond. You want to go keep Mekhi Becton. You want to see if there's any chance to keep Milton Williams. I mean, I don't think so, but you want to do some of those things. You want to upgrade elsewhere. That doesn't mean, going to pay Myles Garrett $30+ million.
Would you agree, Adam, that right now Howie Roseman has his roster and has his sort of house in order better than he's ever had it as far as the youth on the roster, the depth on the roster, and the fact that they're a defending champion?
I mean, look, they're coming up a championship. They're where they would want to be. They have challenges like every team, but they probably have fewer challenges than most because they're better off than most.
So, Schefty, obviously, edge rusher will still be an area they need to address, especially if Brandon Graham retires. Bryce Huff did not play to anywhere near their level of expectation. So you're going into a year relying on Nolan Smith, who was spectacular last year, and third-round pick Jalix Hunt. So if not Myles Garrett, we saw you tweet out 20 minutes ago about Harold Landry. Are the Eagles, do you believe, will be in the market for somebody to play the edge, or do they continue to go with the youth movement like we saw last year?
I think that you're always looking for a Mekhi Becton type of player that is looking to kind of reestablish himself, make a name for himself, looking to cash in. Harold Landry is a guy that has 2 years left in his contract, no guaranteed money remaining. I don't know whether some team's going to pay him, $17.5 million for the next 4 years and guarantee half of it, or whether some team will want him on. I don't know how that's going to work yet. It's just too early, in that they've just granted him permission to seek a trade. So that to me is tough to say right now. But I think that they're looking for guys that all of a sudden, the first 2 days of free agency, those are the guys that you're paying premium prices for. And then after that, there are some guys that get disappointed that don't land the types of contracts. And ultimately, there are going to be players this year, as there are every year, that don't land a contract that they hope, think, will want. And say, okay, you know what? Let's put myself in a great situation on a strong team where I could play, make an impact, shine, and then hit the free agent market again a year from now on a one-year deal, like Mekhi Becton did. Exactly that kind of situation. Now, I don't know who that guy's going to be, but there's going to be somebody. There's going to be many people like that. And that's where I would think the Eagles would be poised to potentially swoop in and sign a guy or two like that can make an impact and go from there.
The March the 10th will come around, that legal tampering period, and then the 12th free agency just explodes. If the big-name guys that are on the free agent market for the Birds are not signed by then, is that a really, red flag, bad sign that the Eagles are sort of playing with fire here? Or do you expect that a couple of the names could potentially be signed before that date? Re-signed, I should say.
I don't think you'll get a couple at all. I think if you get one, you're fortunate. And I don't know if that is going to be the case. They're going to be working. By the way, if you are, who do you think is attainable here, John? Just give me some names that you think are attainable.
Oh, absolutely. I think that Bond and Becton are.
Okay. I agree with both of those. And why would either one of them, unless they're just blown away by an offer? See, here's the thing. Their agents are in Indy this week, and but you get an idea of a player's value market.
Sure.
So when you see a guy re-sign before free agency, you've played the games already. There's no risk in waiting until March 8th or 9th. Zero risk. So it's not like your leverage is going to go down. It's not like Philly's going to say to Zach Bond or Mekhi Becton, you have until March 8th to take this offer, then we're pulling it.
Sure.
They're going to keep working. And the closer it gets to free agency, the closer they get to seeing their value. Now, again, the smart guys, they know exactly what their value is going to be. So if either one of them is going to re-sign with Philly, it's because they want to be there, and they know that they're getting a fair, if not strong, deal relative to everybody else.
You're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia. Beasley Media Group station broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities, and we're joined by Adam Schefter. Shefty, John mentioned the terminology of legal tampering, which always makes me laugh. But last year, remember the Eagles they were investigated for the Saquon Barkley signing. And
thanks to James Franklin.
Yeah, and the Falcons were actually docked a pick because Kirk Cousins straight up admitted that he was talking to the team before the tampering period began. Do you believe the NFL will be even more focused on making sure there's no illegal tampering going on? Because I feel like it was more investigated last year than previous years, and you could speak to that better.
Well, I think that it goes on every year, that the league is always looking for it, and I think that teams have seen instances of other teams being disciplined. I think teams are always being careful. Now, does it go on? Could you find evidence of it every year? I don't think I'm venturing out and saying you probably could. If the league really wanted to dig in, it's hard to imagine that these deals are all of a sudden all coming together at noon on Monday, March 10th. Let's be honest. They don't happen that quickly that morning. But yet there are any number of deals that all get done that Monday. All of them. So my point is, if the league really wants to dig it, I think that, again, there's talking and there's tampering. Everybody engages to a certain extent. But it's somebody that egregiously violates the rules. That you can't do. You just can't do that. And I don't know what that fine line is, but you're talking to agents and whatnot, and trying to get things done. Mekhi Becton, it's funny, I was with somebody last night. We were talking about his particular situation, and he's like, we were debating what Mekhi would get on the open market and whether he would leave, and this guy was like, if I were his agent, I would tell him cash in now and take the money elsewhere while you can. And my argument is that, okay, well, who's offering what, where, or are you happy enough in Philly, playing for Jeff Stoutland in a city that's embraced you on an offensive line where you fit in great, where you work incredibly well next to Lane? Like, is that worth something? It has to be worth something, especially when you were as beat up as you were in New York. But is it worth millions? Is there a team out there that's going to be offering him $3, $4, $5 million a year more over 3-4? Is that worth it? I don't know. I don't know what he values individually. I don't know what the difference is going to be for him. So, and it's a similar story with Zach Bond on a 1-year deal. The city loves me. I love the city. It was great. Is there a team out there that's going to be willing to pay me that much more than Philly that makes it worth my while to go? That's what this week and next week and the week after are about. For him to figure that out and make that decision about what makes sense for him.
I texted you the minute the story came out. I knew the Rats were the Green Bay Packers. I knew they were a bunch of rats, and they ended up being the ones. This is a really weird story. Really weird thing.
Look, I don't get it. I just think it's a little odd to me that, I've heard some people complain about it. I heard Raheem Morris complaining about it yesterday. I saw this clip online about it.
Sean McDermott was worried about injury risk, and yet his team runs at the second most in the NFL.
I'm sure Raheem got permission from Arthur Blank to have that opinion.
Well, again, I guess my point would be, okay, let's say we're banning the tush push, right? What does that look like? So, in other words, you can't push the quarterback? Is that you can't push a play? So, on those runs where we see a running back running in the open field, that's banned too.
Yeah, and he can't push your tight end when he's fighting for a first down, and then the people come up behind him. Can't do that either. It's so stupid.
And quarterback sneaks, are those allowed? Or they're not allowed?
No, sneak can be as long as no one's pushing him.
No pushing the tush.
Okay. I mean, it's just, and again, as I've said, and my stance on this is, it's football. It's football. That's what football. So if Tyreek Hill is so much faster than everybody else, and Patrick Mahomes is throwing the long ball, is it, are we risking the health of DB's hamstrings by having to chase Tyreek Hill down? Like, is that a health and safety risk?
I like Schefter.
Damn right, Schefter.
Thanks, buddy.
Listen, man, we appreciate it as always. Can't wait to talk to you next week.
Guys, have a great week.